chemistry is built off of the stage, in between the scenes, just getting to know people on a personal level. Because if you can trust a person in real life, then you're going to be able to trust them on stage. People give honest feedback, and Civic's a very supportive place in the theater and outside of it on every level.
I know that these actors need to make it their own. I want them to bring their perspective to it. If I can tweak it to help or let go, and if it's working and it's fulfilling, I think, the vision of the playwright, I'm good with that. It doesn't have to be exactly what I had in my head. In fact, it almost never is.
It's the Civic Theater Show, behind the scenes at Civic Theater of Greater Lafayette, Indiana. I'm John O. On the show today, Kyle Brown and John Collier, the stage manager and director, respectively, of our production of Steel Magnolias. If you, as a member of the Greater Lafayette community, have an interest in acting or working backstage, or any of the many roles that a theater needs for each production, how do you get good at it? Kyle Brown has acted in big roles and small, and served as a crew member and director, and he's got advice for you. Kyle also tells us about his recent success as a playwright, with his work being seen not only here, but on stages across the country. John Collier talks about the challenge of casting a show. When dozens of people audition for what is sometimes only a few roles, how does he decide who gets a part? John also takes a look back at how Civic Theater has changed over the years. He's been acting, designing sets, and directing at Civic for just how many years is it? With Kyle Brown, here's John Collier.
Almost 40. Just 1 year shy of 40.
1 year shy of 40 years. Think back. I want to ask you to think back to your first couple of shows, your early years, nearly 40 years ago. What first drew your interest in Civic Theater?
Well, I came to see a show at Civic a year or two before I actually got involved. And I had been involved in theater in high school, and I did one play when I was at Purdue. But otherwise, I hadn't been involved, but it was always something I enjoyed. And I thought, I'm going to get involved here. And finally, I got up the courage to show up to audition for a show, and it's all I wrote. Since 1986, I've been doing shows at Civic.
Do you remember what your first show was at Civic?
Oh, yes. The Sound of Music.
Ah.
Yeah.
And you acted?
I did. I played Franz the Butler, the only non-singing role in the whole show, because I told Dick Yeager I do not sing, but he made me sing anyway, and I sang a cappella for the audition, Lydia the Tattooed Lady. And he said anyone who had the courage to sing that in front of 180 children and their parents in the full house of the audience deserved to get a part.
Deserves a role.
Yeah. So humiliation will get you everywhere.
What can I make this man do? I've got to bring him in.
Well, John, using a wide-angle lens or a zoom lens,
Yeah.
as you care to, so to speak, what's different about Civic Theater today compared to how it was back in the mid to late 1980s? How has our theater evolved?
Oh, boy, it's changed a lot, but it still has that same sense of family, I think, that it's always had. Obviously, from a technology standpoint, it's completely different. In the 80s, 90s, into the 2000s, we didn't have all of the electronic communication that we have now. You know, we had, Civic would send out quarterly or monthly, or I don't remember what it was, newsletters that were printed and came to you in the mail. We had to meet face to face. We didn't have Zoom. We didn't have all these other options for getting together. And I think the difference in the sophistication and the variation and diversity of the shows is probably the biggest change. Civic's always been a great live theater option for this community, one of the few. And for years, they have offered that. And for years, we did a lot of very traditional plays. We made a couple of attempts to do some more cutting edge plays on two different occasions in the past. Neither of them was terribly successful as far as the long term, but I think now we are really striving to have a much more diverse audience. You know, then we were really geared towards one kind of an audience. And I think that our audiences is changing. And I think that we, meaning Civic Theater, the staff and the board have, and I'm not on either of those, have done a great job at reaching out and trying to broaden the people who we attract to be in our productions, help with our productions, and to come and see our productions. So I think that's probably the biggest change. And that's a credit to, I believe, Raquel Lopez and the staff and the board at Civic Theater.
Broadening our reach, broadening our appeal so
Absolutely.
that the people who come to our theater look more like the entire community.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Can you take us through your evolution from starting as an actor in that Sound of Music role, a non-singing role,
Sure.
into you've been directing for years and years now, but most people take a little bit of a journey to work
absolutely.
your way up to director. What was your journey like?
Sure. So I started, as you said, as an actor. And for the first few years, that's all I did. Actually, for several years, I would audition. I was one of those who auditioned for everything, except for most of the musicals. Although I did audition for a musical and was in a 2-person musical that Dick Yeager reviewed and said that I had a less than average singing voice, which was a compliment for me, because he was giving me credit for what I did do. But yeah, I started out acting because I loved that. I really enjoyed being on stage, and then I got involved in set design because I'm a designer professionally, a landscape architect by profession. And it just kind of came naturally to me. I love drawing and detailing and doing all those things. And I love researching what a set needs to be for the time period and all of that. So I did a lot of set design and was acting at the same time. And then I think 1992 was the first show that I actually directed. And I did Little Shop of Horrors, a musical with a great cast, and did an amazing, it was the set, the costumes, everything about it turned out really, really well. And that was my first foray into directing. And so then I started directing and acting and set design. And then I started just doing set design and directing. And now that's pretty much all I do. I haven't been on stage since 2012.
So that's 13 years since you've been on stage.
Yeah.
Do you have any itch to get back in the acting role?
Only if it's the right part and if there's not too many lines.
Now, Kyle, you've been with our theater for the last 6 years, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, this is obviously aging some of us in the room, but
John started before I was born.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Hilarious.
So
Thanks,
you started,
Yeah.
you started by acting like John did, and you have been a crew member several times, both backstage and in the booth. You've directed a youth theater show, and you're now serving as stage manager for Steel Magnolias. So some of Civic's volunteers stick with just one role, maybe acting, or like me, I do sound, costumes, whatever your preferred role is. But over time, you seem to be trying everything. Why is that?
I think the more that you do at the theater, the better you get at everything in the theater. I tell people that come out and just do acting, I'm like, backstage manage and see what that's like and see how that improves you as an actor. People don't truly believe it until they actually do it. You get people up in the booth who have never done it and they're like, oh, now I see. Now I get it. I understand what this position does. I understand how they help me as a person. But then you can also see a performance from a different perspective and know how that can shape you as an actor and how you can improve.
I hadn't heard that before. I like that. You get into stage managing or backstage managing or other roles behind the scenes, maybe to help improve your acting.
Absolutely. I play a lot of D&D as well. So it's like it's an acting exercise for me. Some people are, playing a game and like I'm playing a game, but I'm also like I'm improving my skills as an actor and be able to think off the cuff and come up with different characters and things like that.
I'll put you on the spot here. Can you think of a specific example where after you've done a backstage role and then you acted again, a specific example where that backstage role, as you were saying, improved your technique for being on stage?
Yeah, absolutely. So I assistant directed She Kills Monsters, which was a youth show. And I remember like when I read the script, I had a favorite scene, and it was this really emotional moment where Agnes is like finally breaking down that she's lost her sister and like telling this to her best friend. And Anna Rakita was playing the character, and she was delivering it very sad. And I was like, I think you're doing that wrong. And I was like, you have great instincts. I was like, I don't think she's sad right now. I was like, I think she's something else. And she's like, mad? And I'm like, yeah, I think she's mad. Who's she mad at? Oh, she's mad at her sister. No, I think she's mad at herself. Try it again like that. And then just seeing how that scene changed from being my favorite scene that I had read to being just a meh scene when we were practicing to being, the best scene in the show from that just little tweak, and then realizing that I need to do that more too. Like even if I think I'm right, change something a little bit each time you do it, just to see if it's better or worse. See if you had the correct instincts from the get-go.
Just turn the steering wheel a little bit, but can change the whole direction of a performance.
Absolutely.
In addition to acting and directing and serving on the crew, you've recently added another title to your resume, that of playwright.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about it. How did you make the leap from playing characters to writing them?
Well, actually, I went to school for film and television production, but I had a minor in creative writing. So I've always done writing, but it was poetry and short stories and film scripts. I had never really done any sort of playwriting at all, but I did the 10-minute festival. That was the first thing that I had done at Civic. And then the next year I was like, I want to try to submit something. And my first time I got something in, and it was a comedy, and it got a lot of laughs and reactions. And I was like, this feels even better than when I'm on stage getting good reactions. And then that just pushed me to write more and more. And then COVID hit, and I had a lot of time to write. Mm-hmm. And then this past year, I was the producing artistic director of the 13th annual Playfest. And so I wasn't able to submit any of my own works. So I've been spending this year sending them out to other places, other theaters, other publications, magazines, and things like that. And I'm getting produced in Houston, Texas, and Gulfport, Florida, and Chicago, Illinois. And I'm in magazines and books and stuff now. And it's nothing that I ever expected.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's just fantastic success for having just started at it a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell us what's coming up next?
Gosh, I don't know. I keep writing. We have the Greater Lafayette Playwrights in town. We just put on our first performance of like monologues, a one-night act of monologues. People like Steve Martin and Rivers Are Blue are in it. And we meet every couple weeks, and we just write and share things, and that helps fuel us as writers and learn from each other as writers. And we're hoping to put on some more events with the GLP.
Mm-hmm. I know that some writers, whatever they're writing, whether it's writing a play, writing music, writing a script or a blog, whatever they may be writing, some writers have a technique where they just try to sit down every day for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever time they want to allot to it, just say, I'm just going to try to get something out. I'm going to get another paragraph or a page or a few measures of music or whatever it may be. Other writers don't write until they feel some inspiration. They're waiting for the muse to hit. They're waiting for something to happen in their lives which makes them think about what's next for the page or for their sheet of music. Mm-hmm. What's it like for you?
It really depends. I think I'm more of a person. I'm glad I have a phone and I have a notebook in it, and I will write down an idea will hit me, but I don't really know how to form it yet sometimes. So I'll just jot down little ideas, and then sometimes I come back to it weeks later and like, what did I mean by that? What is Chekhov's gum? I don't. What does that mean to me? And then sometimes I've written things down, and one of the first dramatic things I wrote was a play called "Heavy as the Back That Wears the Cape," and it had sat in my notes for 2 or 3 years, and then I finally was like, I'm going to write this. I think I have an idea. I think I have a direction. And I'm the kind of person who sits down, and once I start, I don't stop till I'm done. So I don't write in little chunks and come back to it later. I do it all at once. I'll let it sit, and then I'll come back and read it again, see what I can fix.
Nice.
I remember seeing that last year or 2 years ago.
At
the short play
2001,
festival.
I think, 2002, something like that.
You mean 2021, 2022?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say. I didn't think we had those.
Not that long ago, sorry.
Yeah.
It's like, what year were you born? How old were you then?
Yeah, that was very
like we established that John started
place.
nearly 40 years ago. And
before he was born.
Let's talk about the play that opens on September 4th, 2025, Steel Magnolias. It's our first main stage of the season. I understand that over 40 people auditioned for the show's 6 parts. Is that a correct number? That sounds like either an incredible blessing or an absolute nightmare. John, yes. You've directed dozens of shows. What's your process for casting people?
It's difficult. The process is agonizing. It's exhilarating, and it's enjoyable, especially when you're done. But for me, the hard part is telling so many people no, because I could have cast the show probably with several different people. But a lot of times it comes down to physical characteristics, traits, height. In this particular show, Shelby and Malin play a mother and daughter, and they need to be, I believe, credible as a mother and a daughter. There are a couple of other references in the script to Shelby, the daughter, giving clothes to Annelle, who is the co-worker. And clearly they should be able to wear the same size clothes. So they need to physically be in a similar stature. So, things like that have a big influence on how you make a final decision. And I tell everyone who auditions that so many things go into the actual final decision. So please don't take it as a negative thing that your acting was terrible or that you were, that you weren't good enough. I mean, that's just not the case. It could be that there was one thing that made it the reason why I cast this person over that other person. But there are so many things that go into it.
Well, in the case of age was really important for this one.
Critical. Yeah, I mean, all of these, the youngest need to be in their low to mid 20s, could be as young as 19 or 20.
You gotta have retired women.
You gotta have retired women in their 60s. You gotta have a mother who's old enough to have a 25-year-old daughter. And then Truvy needs to be ideally in her 40s. She has kids going off to college. So, and they even say in the script, this person is this to this age. So that's kind of what you work with. And, you try to, as best you can, to accommodate the playwright's desire. Sometimes that's not possible, and sometimes you have to make modifications and adjustments. But if you can, I always try to be respectful of that.
When you have people who have to work together well and come across as their characters authentically, like mother and daughter, Malin and Shelby, in this show, how do you make that work with different actors, particularly if they're not auditioning at the same time? Do you have callbacks, or do you just have to trust your instinct? How does that work?
I will often have callbacks just for that reason. If they did
Ask
not happen,
to play a scene together.
Yeah, and I, we'll have, and I'll group them. In this case, there were 6 characters that we had to cast, and so I did have an evening of callbacks where I brought a group of actors back and we played them. We paired them differently and tried to, do different groupings to see which came across most credibly and genuinely. And I think we did a pretty good job casting on this show. Mm-hmm. And I want to reiterate, there were so many other people I could have cast.
We could have cast this 3 different times and you'd have a good show.
Have a great show no matter what. And I'm still sorry for those who did not get cast. But, I think we ended up with what will be a very good cast and a really great show.
Sometimes you've got to make a choice between a familiar actor, maybe someone who's been on our stage before, maybe many shows, or that you just know in another context, or choose someone who is new, either new to our theater, and this is community theater, they might be new to acting entirely. What do you consider when you're presented with that choice?
Agony. You literally have to, how big is the role? How critical is it? Do you take the risk with a new person that you don't know exactly how they might be? I mean, you can tell based on the audition, but that's just a snippet.
Do they come prepared every day? Yeah. You don't know that.
Yeah,
sort of
I mean, are they responsible? Are they going to come to the rehearsal? Are they going to have all kinds of issues? So it's just a risk. You look at that and you weigh it. Do you go with the known, or do you take the risk? And sometimes, there have been times I've taken the risk and gone with someone that I haven't worked with before, that I just thought I had a sense. You kind of go with your gut, and you just hope for the best. And I think to date, I've had very few issues with casts that I've worked with in the past, and the numerous shows that I've directed over the years. Very few. Mm-hmm. I think my gut tells me usually is pretty good. I've been wrong a few times, but not too often.
During the audition process, the question for either of you, have you ever been completely astonished by someone who comes in and auditions, astonished by their talent, their seeming apparent talent during the audition, whether it's for just a dramatic play or a musical, and you're like, oh my goodness, this person is so talented. I'm amazed we haven't seen you here before. Why aren't you on Broadway?
Yeah,
or
I've said
that kind of thing.
I can think of 3 instances at least in the past 10 years at auditions where I've said to someone, where have you been? why are you just showing up now? Yes, that happens.
Okay, why don't we talk some specifics then about Steel Magnolias? At the time of this recording, we're 3 weeks into rehearsing for the show. Kyle, how's the show coming together from your perspective as stage manager?
Oh, terribly. No, no, it's fantastic. Even from the get-go at the table read, you were there, John. We were all crying at the table by the end of it. Genuine tears, and it wasn't. We know, most of us knew the story, so it wasn't like we were caught off guard by the story, but it was just everyone was giving their all, even at the table read, and no one's slowed down at all. Every rehearsal is everyone giving 100%, and it shows, and it's gonna really show when people are sitting in the seats too.
And they talk, they like each other, they interact, they get feedback from each other. On stage, they talk about something.
They're meeting outside of our rehearsal hours to rehearse
to
together.
to do lines. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's really good. They have really gelled very, very well. And, I love the fact that, for me as a director anyway, they'll say, could I do this? Of course. Yes, please. I want you to try it. We want to try it and see if it works. And if you're more comfortable moving there or standing there or doing this or doing that, definitely do it. You're the actor. You're bringing this character to life. I want to see what your instinct is, and if I don't like it, I'll tell them, or I'll say, well, how about if we tweak it and do this? But 9 times out of 10, what they suggest is like, yeah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really like about John's technique is he lets everyone try something. Like, I just want to see if you can do it. And he'll be honest with you, like, yeah, that didn't work. Yeah. But he's also one who'll be like, let's try this. And he'll be like, oh, no, I was wrong. Let's do it your way and things like that. So I really enjoy the process with John, too.
As stage manager or as director, when do you start learning the show yourself? I mean, do you get the script months ahead of time and go through it page by page and study it and start thinking about, okay, I need to... If the actors aren't drawing the right emotions on this page, then I need to help them through that. But I wonder if you could just take me through a little bit of your process for when do you learn the show? When do you start thinking about direction and stage management?
John had the script, probably a year before we started.
Months before,
at least. I didn't come in until about June-ish, but I was really, again, busy with the play festival, so I wasn't even really engrossed with it yet until about July. And I've never seen the movie. I'd never seen the stage show. I kind of knew the story before I'd gotten the chance to read it. So I really didn't have much more time before they started coming in and auditioning. I'm sure some of them knew the story, but a lot better than I did before they got rolling.
Yeah, and I got this, well, as soon as they decided to consider it, I read the play again. I mean, I saw the original off-Broadway production at the Lucille Lortel Theater in 1987. It opened, I think, earlier that year.
That sounds right. I believe 87 for the Broadway for New York, and then a couple years later for the movie.
Yeah, the play's much better. For those who have seen the movie and are only coming to see it based on that. Yes, months in advance. And I have read that script 10 times at least.
So you're reading it, you're thinking through all kinds of things as director. You're thinking through, okay, I got to get the actor from stage left to stage right, or I got to get them to come through this door at this point, or I got to think about the emotions. This is going to be a scene where someone is angry, someone is very sad, how do I draw that out of them? But what I wanted to ask with that is, even after you've studied the script, and you obviously know this particular play very well from years and years back, how often does it happen during a rehearsal where one of your actors will take a particular bit of dialogue or something in a completely unexpected direction in a way that you like?
Always. Just about every show that happens, for sure. I definitely have an idea in my head of how those characters should be, especially for this show. I know that these actors need to make it their own, and so I want them to bring their perspective to it. And if I can tweak it to help, or if I can just let go and say let them do it, then that's what I want to do. If it's working and it's fulfilling, I think, the vision of the playwright, in my mind, at least my interpretation of the playwright's vision, I'm good with that. It doesn't have to be exactly what I had in my head. In fact, it almost never is. But it's the gut thing. It's like that. My gut is telling me that that's the direction it should go, and it always goes. At least for my to date, it's always seemed to go in the right direction at the end. It's always right. I don't think I've ever been disappointed with any production I've done with the acting that's occurring on the stage. Mm-hmm. I've always been pleased.
Kyle, from the perspective of an actor,
Yeah,
it seems like every show that I've been a part of, we always have a good chunk of the cast. It might be a quarter, it might be a half of the cast who are brand new to our theater. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're brand new to acting on a stage entirely. Other times they've acted before, maybe in high school, maybe in college, and they're just new to acting with us. When you are one of that other half or three quarters of the cast who have been in previous Civic productions, how much does that help? And how do you mentor them to gain that chemistry that they need, so that when we finally see the show, the audience doesn't know who's new and who's experienced?
I think a lot of that chemistry is built off of the stage, in between the scenes, just getting to know people on a personal level. Because if you can trust a person in real life, then you're going to be able to trust them on stage. There's not a whole lot of people that I've had to have really close scenes with on stage that I just absolutely hate their guts off stage, because it just doesn't work as easily, Not that I haven't done it and haven't pulled it off, because I'm a fantastic actor, but I think a lot of that chemistry just comes from being off stage. And I was new at one point too, and just being able to talk to people and people give honest feedback, and actors just supporting actors. Civic's a very supportive place in the theater and outside of it, on every level. Directors and actors and stage crews and people that work in the office, everyone will always ask you how you're doing, and it's genuine and it feels genuine.
Yeah, it really does become a family atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. John, I was going to back up and answer your other question about reading things in advance, because I design the set too. Mm-hmm. for the shows that I direct anyway. When I'm reading through it, I am analyzing every single thing about, okay, what does that say about the set? And then knowing the complicating factors of the thrust stage and designing a set for that, as I'm reading it and thinking about characters, I'm also thinking about, okay, where and how are the things going to be positioned so that everybody's not lined up in a row, and that they use the whole set. So the set becomes an integral part of my analysis as I'm reading through the whole thing as the director as well. And I think it makes a big difference. I mean, I've modified the design of this set 3 or 4 times to get to where it finally is ending up.
And with the thrust stage that we have in the Monon Depot Theater, you've got to think about things like sightlines.
Sightlines,
you can't, especially if they're sitting in Section A or Section C, way over by the wings there. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you can't have too much action happening upstage in the back part of the stage.
Yeah, and you can't have any big obstacles downstage, because that blocks the view. So furniture and walls and fixtures that have to be in place for the actors to work with it's difficult.
You got to set the blocking so that the cast can make their performance accessible to everybody in the audience.
Yeah.
At least as much of the time as you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting in this particular show, Kyle, we kind of laughed about it, I think, last week, that so many actors come to Civic, especially if they haven't ever done anything at Civic, who have only worked on a proscenium stage where the audience is completely aligned with the stage opening. Mm-hmm. So no one has a side view. Everybody has a straight on view. And, they're always taught, don't turn your back to the audience. You can't turn your back to the audience. And that's just, you can't do that at Civic. There are times your back is to the audience. If you're in Section A or C on the sides, it's almost impossible not to have your back at some point. The key is not having them with their back to the audience for a long period of time, but it's okay. And the actors just have to cheat it. And we just talk about that during rehearsals. You're going to have to cheat that a little bit stage left or a little bit stage right, so that everybody can see, and that your back is only to one group for a short period of time.
Especially with this set, since we're raised up and it's a fixed set, so it's we don't change scenery really. I mean, things within the scene change, but we're not bringing out a whole different set for different scenes. And we've got a chaise longue that's there, and it's okay, you have to sit in this particular spot, and you have to sit in this particular spot. And it sounds silly, and they're like, okay. Well, it's like, no, you need to be 3 inches back, or this whole section of the audience can't see you at all for this scene.
Right. And the actors have been great about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll literally stop and say, okay, Marcella, you need to take one step downstage, or you need to shift to the stage right side of that settee or sofa, or it's not a sofa, it's not a chaise, it's a bench basically with arms.
It's pretty.
It's open on two sides, which gives you lots of flexibility. If you go back and look at set designs for almost every show I've done for the last several years, they almost all have big ottomans or seats that are low with no backs, so that they can play different directions. It helps a lot.
So speaking of flexibility, I have to ask because, well, I am personally very much looking forward to 2 years from now when we get our new stage at the Lafayette Theater that's being renovated. It's going to be, 450, 500 seats?
Approximately.
Somewhere in there. We don't know the numbers yet, but it's 2 years away, a much bigger space, and by means of size, or by way of the size of the space, flexibility. Right. What are you most looking forward to as far as, well, set design and blocking and directing and stage managing?
Dressing room space.
Yeah. Yes, there will be dressing room space, appropriate. And there will be fly space, which we don't have, which makes set design and lighting a lot easier because you can fly pieces in and out, meaning they go
from
up,
above, coming up.
They come up and down. Yes, they can go up and disappear out of sight, and then they can come down when you want them.
Yeah, I think our ceiling on our Civic stage is about 12 feet up, something.
The proscenium is just under 12 feet, and the ceiling behind it is about 13 feet to the grid. Yeah, so it's very limiting.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an old train station, so that makes sense. But yeah, the fact that this space will be flexible, also that, the seating is at this point being designed. And again, we should preface this by saying nothing is done yet.
Not set in
It's
stone.
still in the design stage, and budget will have a lot to do with that once we know where that comes in. It will have what they call telescopic seating on the balcony. Will still have seating. It'll be nice seating up there, but the main floor stage, everything, right now the Lafayette Theater is tiered, 3 tiers. When it's renovated, if things all go as planned, it'll be a flat floor, which will be much nicer. And the seating will be telescopic. So basically it's like bleacher type seating, but it's nice theater seating that pulls out. So when it's not being used for a theater, that can be pushed back. And then you have an open space that can be used for Civic Youth Theater camps. They can literally just move in there for the week or 2 weeks or however long they're there.
Flexibility being designed in.
Or it can function as a, for another event, because this will not be exclusively Civic Theater space. Just to clarify that also. This is, the city owns the Lafayette Theater along with Long Center. Long Center will be managing the theater space, but Civic will be an artist in residence in essence. So they will have, in essence, first dibs at using the space, but they don't get it exclusively. There will be other events in there on occasion. And so we do need to be able to be flexible and work around that. But that might help for those folks as well if they want to do a meeting with, auditorium style seating that's flat versus, or tables and chairs. That flat floor seating will really be nice versus, everybody having to sit in an auditorium, with stepped seating. So besides fly space, besides a very small, not very deep, but enough to be able to hide the pit, we'll have a space for a pit orchestra, small orchestra. The stage is elevated. So it's a proscenium stage, so all the seats are straight on views. So fly space, taller proscenium opening, great offstage space. I mean, everything about it's going to be way nicer than what we've ever known.
Yeah. Well, we'll be talking a lot more about that in the next couple of years as we get to that. But I'm so excited about it. I suspect that as we go forward with our podcast, that we'll just be talking about a little bit at a time.
Yes. What
are you looking forward to? What we'll be learning lots more about that. After Steel Magnolias, do you know what's next, Kyle?
I don't know. I mean, when I started at Civic, I created a checklist for myself, essentially, be on stage, have lines, have a lead role, be in a musical, do all these things. And I've checked a lot of those things off the list. I want to direct a main stage show at some point, so hopefully that's in the future somewhere. Yeah, I want to have like a major role in a musical. I've had a lot of bit parts in musicals and things. So those are the 2 big goals for me. But I don't know when those will be or what they'll be, but I'm definitely going to be around Civic.
Yeah, you'll be around. Things. John, do you know what's next for you at Civic?
I've already committed to helping with the set design for the Christmas Carol, the live radio play.
Yes.
That Trey Gordon is
Trey Gordon directing.
And I believe I have also already committed to doing the set for the birthday candles in the spring.
Very good.
So those are my short-term future commitments. Long-term, it's probably just more of the same. I like helping with like our storage facility for Civic Theater. I do attend some of the facilities meetings and try to help when I can on things like that. I'm all about helping out with the shop stuff. Anything I can do to help Civic Theater function more efficiently, I want to be involved in.
Some of the logistics of running a theater.
Yes, yeah. That have nothing to do with particular shows, just about the theater in general.
Let's wrap with this. It's been 18 years since Civic last staged Steel Magnolias. Some of our longtime patrons might remember that last production on our stage, and lots of people may remember the 1989 movie. Even if the plot is familiar, why should our audience come to see this version of Steel Magnolias in September?
Well, Raquel Lopez, our producing artistic director, is taking the stage, which is really exciting for a lot of people because people haven't seen her act.
It's her first time on our stage.
Even John, who's known her for years, when she auditioned, he was like, "Oh, I'm so glad she was good because I'm friends with her in real life, and I don't know what I would do if she was awful."
Yeah.
Julie Bauman, another one who is like just known around Civic, and people haven't really got to see her on stage in a really long time. Ellie Macias, brand new, playing Shelby. Delaney Jones is doing fantastic as Annelle. We've got big characters in Marcella Holmes doing Clary, and Meg Foley as Weezer. Like it's 6 people. Small casts are like my favorite shows.
Totally.
Because you just get so much closer,
Yeah.
and you get to play around more with the characters. And so what they're getting to do as those 6 people, one brand new person to Civic, 2 people who have been around Civic but people haven't seen them, and then you 3 people who have been involved lately. You're getting a bunch of stuff from everyone. Yeah.
The other thing I do want to mention is a shout out to the technical team. Kyle obviously is stage managing for me, which is fantastic. I was so glad he said yes. Nancy Killian is assistant stage manager who has stage managed for me in the past. Then also Nancy Marshall has taken on the role as she normally will do a lot of set and scenic painting for me when I design sets. But this time she's jumping in and doing costumes. And I think she's having a great time, and she's doing a fabulous job. And I think the actors even are really love what she's been pulling for them, and what they have been able to pull from their own wardrobes to be able to use. Because remember, the show takes place in 1986 to 89 or so. So it's a period piece. It's not contemporary. And I like to be true to that, and with every aspect, phones, sets, sounds, music, costumes, all of that stuff. Jordan Gooch is doing the lighting for me for this show, which is it's fairly simple, I think. I hope I'm not complicating it too much by adding a few little things here and there. Obviously, John, you're doing my sound again because you're fabulous, and I love having you. Whenever we collaborate well together. I think you and I just really play well off of each other, and you have great ideas, and you always get what I'm trying to say even when I can't articulate it. I have a whole team of people working on props because we had so many people who auditioned who checked that they wanted to help out backstage if they didn't get cast, and they actually reached out afterwards when they weren't cast. And so I have a handful of folks who are helping out with props, and who wanted to be in the show and that didn't work, but they're willing to help out.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many.
Props,
Dan
lights,
Raymond's helping with the set.
Yeah, that's as always. I mean, Dan and I have a great relationship too. Dan Raymond, who has helped me with so many sets, I think since Murder or Dial M for Murder. No, Murder on the Orient Express. I always confuse those two. And he keeps coming back, and he knows how I change my mind 20 times while we're building, and he just rolls with it and has been fabulous. We spent all weekend at the theater this weekend. 2 weekends ago, we even during the week, because we're both retired now, and so we also he retired before I did, but I'm retired now, so we can work during the week as well, and he's been terrific to work with as always. So yeah, we depend on so many people to make these shows a success. It's not just the actors you see on stage. It's not just the name of the director and the stage manager. It's all of those other people who are listed who have been working for hours and weeks on costumes and lights and sound and set design and construction. and all the things that go along with that. It's an incredible feat to get it all done.
Yeah, so to answer your question, it's that collaborative effort, and John's a great person to have at the helm of all those things because he keeps a calm head, and he's someone who lets people do the jobs that he brought them in for. I've definitely worked with people who bring in people and then micromanage everything they're doing, and it's like, well, why you could have brought anybody in then? Like, you're bringing in people that you want to bring in because you know what they can do and you can trust them to do it, and John does a great job of just letting people do what they do.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna stop me now, 'cause I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Nothing's gonna stop me now, 'cause I'm feeling good.
Kyle Brown and John Collier. Civic Theater's production of Steel Magnolias opens September 4th, 2025. And tickets are available for all of our shows at LafayetteCivic.org. Next on the podcast, Benji Braswell, Director of Education and Outreach for Civic Theater and the Director of Beetlejuice Jr., coming in October from Civic Youth Theater. Music for the podcast is licensed by Audio. That's AUDIIO.com. I'm John O. Thanks for listening. The Civic Theater Show is presented by Civic Theater of Greater Lafayette, Indiana. See yourself here.